First, I'm going to walk you guys through car wash. As you come in the way that this is going to work, it's not completely 100% set up yet. Is if you're going to enter a code to a keypad, you're going to have a PIN number. And once you enter that PIN number, then these electric guys here will be activated and will give a certain amount of time for the car to activate the car wash. And this way, during summertime or during, it'll keep anybody else from using the car wash and allow the owners to reconcile which companies are using which. So like I said, this is the activation system. So basically, as soon as the car clears this, inside the car wash panel, there's a timer that allows the particular module to stay on after it clears. For example, this one we have set for 5 seconds. So as soon as the car clears, it just gives it, you should travel at about a foot per second. That way it'll allow it to go ahead and blast off all of the debris off the back of the car as well too. And that's what this arch is designed for. This one doesn't have any chemical or anything going through it. Basically, it's just a high volume, low pressure that will allow to get the majority of the debris off the cars before they hit the brush package. As we move forward, I'm going to start off with the car wash down before we go with the brushes. So you have a disconnect on here, which actually has a lockout if you have the ability to lock it out over here. A lot of people don't realize it, but it is a lockable disconnect. One of the other things too that we have here are emergency stop switches. So you have these emergency stop switches over here, so if anything ever goes wrong and somebody's getting sideways in the car wash, you just hit it and then you reset it. But every time that you reset it, it's real important when you come back here and you repress the reset button. You might have to put a little label on here to let you know, and that way it'll reset the electric eyes. As I mentioned before, if this is kind of any car that pulls up when the car wash system is on, it will activate the car wash. So we're looking at the panel of the exterior. You'll notice that you have a couple of what we call handoff auto switches. So you got one for the flutter arch, you got one for the brush system, and you got one for the final rinse arch. So these are always maintained in the auto mode. If you want to test something and you want to see if it's functioning properly, you can go ahead and put it in the hand mode. We've got water on right now, so I don't want to get everybody wet and test that out right now, but that's basically the way that it is. You'll notice that all the controls that we've done to this panel are all coming in through the bottom of the box, and it's by design. We use a NEM 4X box that's waterproof, and it's really important that every time you open and close this particular deal, that you latch up all the latches and you make sure that this thing is sealed to prevent any moisture from entering the panel. So there's a series of things inside the panel that are really important. The most important thing is, and once you first start off a car wash, is we go over, we make sure we tighten all these lugs, because we'll get calls and they'll say, hey, when the brush is tripping, the breaker, and basically this is just a breaker for each individual brush motor. So you've got 4 that are for half horsepower, and then you've got one that has a little bit of a higher load calculation, which I believe is number 1 is for the top brush, because that's a 1 horsepower motor. So these motor overloads are adjustable. We've got them adjusted at the rating on the motor plate. But as time goes on, of course, gearboxes become a little resistant, motors maybe draw a little bit more current, so you have a little bit of flexibility there to turn it up a little bit if you're kicking breakers. But the first thing that you always want to do is you always want to make sure that the lugs that are going, the wires that are going to the motors, that everything is tightened here, because that will cause, especially if it's a particular one, you want to check these down here. The other ones are all on a bus. And basically what we've got here is to reduce the wear and tear on the machine. This is not on a VFD, but it's in fact on a soft start. So every time that you start the machine and when you're coming to look at it and inspect the machine, it's important that you look at it and that you see the brushes ramp up and ramp down. Otherwise, we put premature wear and tear, and this would need to be replaced. So you'll notice that you've got both the soft start and you've got a motor contactor there, and that, so they're kind of hooked up. It makes it do its thing. All the controls on the NS are 24 volt. So you've got the 24 volt transformer here. You also have another 24 volt transformer in the blower panel. And basically what those do is they send the signals to the solenoids. They send the signals to the electric eyes. They send the signals to the chemical pumps to turn on. So this is a really important thing, and if it goes out, you've got, it's real important to keep some spare fuses here, and just in case something fails. We've sized everything properly to operate with all the chemical pumps, and so that you have the right amount of 24 volt power. So there shouldn't be any issues, but every now and then, especially with teething pains, if you're having some problem with the signals, checking the continuity of fuses, having some spare fuses is definitely a very good idea. So NS used to use a system, and she'll show you in the back when we do the blowers, where we used to do the timers for each deal, like I explained before, how this was on for 5 seconds. So right now, I'm not going to turn this on right now with everybody here, but basically this little unit here is very easily programmable, and it's adjustable, but it's already set. So this is on at an off delay of 5 seconds. The brush package is on an off delay of 45 seconds, and the final rinse arch is on an off delay of 10 seconds. So for the programming, in case anything goes wrong, there's an engineering directive in here that's got some really nice illustrations, some really nice photos, and it explains how to do everything. So this is going to be inside of the panel, but there really should be no tampering with this. And this is actually nice. You might want to keep this instruction somewhere else so people can't tamper with it. Because people say, oh, I want to keep this on longer, or I want the brushes on longer. This is already set up because, remember, it's 45 seconds after you break the ice. So the car's in there, that brush package is going to be on. You should be traveling through it 1 foot per second. So it should take you about 60 seconds to get through the car wash. And, that's about it. And you've got a series of relays, and you've got the main disconnect, like I said, built into the panel. All the wiring, all the schematics. You've got them taped on the doors, and you've got additional schematics in the bags here.
The timings are also on there on that one on the left. It's got what your actual timings are supposed to be set at.
Yeah, the only one that we changed on this one is this entry arch, because if you're on reclaimed water, that's cool, but this site operates on fresh water, so they're trying to curb usage a little bit, and also if there's any wind, trying to keep the water from going out the front of the car wash, because when the blower's on, it'll kind of blow it out of the front, so we want to do, we kind of reduce that. Do I have any questions so far? All righty.
That's 24 volts, that's AC or DC?
It's direct current DC. Yeah.
Is that about the 24 volt?
The 24 volt is direct current,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's DC. Oh, it's AC. Sorry. AC.
Oh, it is?
I had to ask. Okay, so moving along, I'm going to take you over to this side. And basically, you kind of got to get in here because we're going to be looking at the chemical pump. So this is the chemical drum that was provided by the owners, and then this is the blue and white pump that you have. And you'll notice it has an adjustment at the top, and it has a set screw over here that you loosen and tighten in order to do it. Now it's really important that you adjust this pump only while it's running. If you adjust it on an off position, it'll strip it. So basically, you can go ahead and when you need to adjust it, and without a bunch of people in here, you put the brush system on hand, and you can even turn off the water on the pump side. and you come over here and turn it down. Right now it's at 7, which I think is a little bit high, and yesterday we were getting quite a bit of chemical on the cars after the fact. So we want to dial this down to 5, but the most important thing is remembering that it can only be adjusted when it's energized. Same goes for the wax pump. So the other control that you have over here, so you've got this solenoid that tees off here, so we're feeding the brush package, and this is where the chemical goes to the brushes and on the car, how it's applied. And then you've got the line from here that goes to the frame and goes up that hose that goes to that other solenoid, which controls the flutter arch. So either way, whenever you need to shut off the water over here at the car wash, you've got that valve right there, and that will shut off the water to both the flutter and the brush package. So if you need to troubleshoot something or turn it on without having a bunch of water on, that's one of the ways that you can take care of it. So everything is run on the utility tray, and by design, when we designed this with Laura, she put the radiant heat tube on that side, and we put all the combustibles and hoses on this side, just to keep everything, away from the heat getting brittle. So all the cables run through there, and they run through the machine. Everything's real clean. One of the things I want to bring up about cables that a lot of people will overlook, and we're gonna move the rubber to isolate to keep them vibrating. So if somebody runs through too hard through it, it'll crack right through the middle. If it's a warranty or something, like you see the whole coupling coming out, and it's the rubber part's intact, usually that's a warranty.
Okay. And all the pivot points or greaseless?
All the pivot points on these wrap brushes, those are. So you've got the pillow block bearings on these wrap brush, and these are UHMW oil filled. And so you want to keep a look at them, and you want to make sure that they don't go out around, that they're, sometimes, over time they will compress, the oil will come out, and you'll get a little bit of stiction, and it won't move as freely, or it'll bind. So real important to look at that. Now, on the brush adjustment, a lot of other systems will have hydraulics and air cylinders and other stuff for the adjustment. The NS works all on gravity. So that you got two bearings. You got the top bearing, which is fixed, and then you got the lower bearing. And when you look at the lower bearing, you'll see that you have like a slip there where you can move back and forth to do the adjustment. So when you adjust the brushes, it's really important to not loosen them too much and just tap them a little bit at a time. Right now, these brushes are adjusted where they wrap around the cars beautifully. We adjusted them yesterday, so it's not something that we want to play with right now because it's set. But basically, if you go outward, it makes it heavier, and if you go inward, it makes it lighter. So the intent is when the car's you want this brush to adhere to it even when it's going around the corner. So sometimes you'll see it, and if it's too light, once you hit it, it'll open up, and then it won't take the car until it hits about the back of the fender or the front of the mirror, and you miss the whole front section. So it's really important that you get them to wrap around correctly and they're properly set. So that explains that part. The bumpers are already all set up and everything else. You want to look at those bumpers as well too. Sometimes, somebody will come in and smash it and maybe make a motor come out too far. So all visual stuff that you want to inspect. And an out-around bearing, you will see it. There'll be almost like a gap in the shaft between the oil filled. And once you start seeing that, it's better just to, replace it and make sure the car wash is working well. You pull that off. You can pop a new UHMW piece and it's real cheap, inexpensive. So the other thing that you really need to keep track of on these brushes is the breakaway plates. So you got two different breakaway plates. Those are a little sturdier because of the elevation and the longer brush and the weight. These are our standards. So you got those two UHMW inserts that go inside of a piece that's welded inside of the arm. There's a couple there. And so you want to make sure that the plate is always parallel, you know, with the brush arm. Once you start seeing them lag over a little bit, then you know there's something going on with that bushing, that it's worn out, or the insert inside is you know, a weld has been broken. And this kind of stuff can happen and you kind of don't notice it until you go on, because a shot here and a shot there of somebody going through faster than they should, it takes its little wear and tear. So it's really important to look at that kind of stuff. So going back over here, these are all the application arches that apply to spray the chemical and spray onto the car. Now this is running on fresh water, so there really shouldn't be a need to clear these out, but because it's new piping and everything else, there might be some debris inside. You've got these cleanouts right at the bottom of every single point, and basically opening these up every once in a while and allowing whatever debris is inside allows it to come out. With this freshwater system, I think it's only going to be after you get the initial debris from the pipe. So
on these bristles, what's the lifespan?
gosh,
And how do you know what will it show wear and tear? When do you replace them?
it used to have a little, believe it or not, like a tread wear indicator, a different color bristle that used to stick out. But on these new ones, and when you look at them, a lot of people will see them and you'll see that the brushes like oscillate up and down as they're spinning, and it's a special design that makes them do that. But the bottom line is that you'll notice that the brushes start to become buried. And the beauty of it is that you can replace these brush pelts in sections. So you're always going to get the most friction down at the bottom. So you can actually detach the brush, put it on a couple of stands, and replace just the worn out sections. But around, what would you say, about 250,000 washes out of these brushes? And the important thing is, you know, we say that, and then there's people that drive them through with no water, no soap, and that just tears these up and tears up the cars. So the lifespan. But running on fresh water and running with the chemical, I mean, these brushes should easily do 200,000 cars. I don't have a doubt they could, you know, do that. And we'll move on over here. Like I said, the only difference between this wrap brush setup, the secondary wrap brush setup, like I said, is a little bit taller. So we use a different breakaway plate that's dual-sided, so it's mounted on both sides. But you still have the same bushing, and you still have the same, you know, adjustment with the bolt to keep the friction, so that it's not too much and not too little. Like on this one right here, we're going to have to do a little bit of pulling the cord out because you kind of see that it's, you know, it's just really close. So another tip too is that what we'll do is if we see points that are a little bit of a touching point, is wrapping some black tape around it or wrapping an insulation around it to give it greater protection around points where there's going to be a little bit more friction. And on these, you have the same UHMW oil-filled bearings, the same bumpers, same motors and gearboxes, same couplers. And again, you've got the applicators over here that spray the brushes, make sure they're lubricated for when the cars are going through. So then we'll move on to the top brush. So the top brush has the same deal, the only thing you're covering is the work around this area. Instead of the flex coupling, you have an Omega E5 style coupling that has a couple of hubs that you have to secure onto the shafts. So when we secure these on, you always, when you're doing your walkthrough on the car wash, you want to make sure that this is nice and tight, just the way that it is right now. Because sometimes what will happen is the hub comes loose inside, and then it'll tear apart this, you know, this two-piece Omega 5 coupling. So it's one of the things that you really want to check out to make sure. I mean, we put, you know, anti-seize, we lock all the hubs up when we install it and everything. But again, can happen. So that's one maintenance point you want to look at least, once a month, maybe every other week, depending on the usage here, probably once a month will be fine. We talked about how all those brushes don't need lubrication. Well, that's not the case with the top brush. The top brush has 2 points which require grease. Like a Zerk. Yeah, it's got a couple of Zerk fittings, and you use like a marine grease. And you've got the Zerk fitting down here for this one, for the one that spins the top brush.
It's right here, yeah.
You got it down on the bottom. Yes, you got core-arms on both sides. So that's one of the important things. And I just always kind of spin it around and make sure that you don't have too much resistance or too much play in making sure. You'll see this, when the hub comes apart, you'll see some play in there, and you'll know that you just got to loosen these nuts, these bolts up, and get it all set. And again, chafing, you want to make sure that you're not getting any chafing. Because right here I can already see on this motor plate. Okay, so we've got to address that.
What's the maintenance interval on moving on?
I would do these Zerk fittings at least once a month. Just keep an eye on them. If you feel like they're getting a little dried up, maybe increase the interval. Decrease the interval.
Decrease in their environment, plus cars, and increase in some.
Yep. So the other part that you have to keep an eye on too, so I just wanted to get to the gearbox part. And here's the thing, this is a top brush shield, something that we pretty much pride ourselves on. Not only does it protect the ceiling, but it keeps water from moving forward while you're trying to rinse the car, so it's important to keep this piece on there. Otherwise you start spraying water up on the rafters, this is going to rust to death, so this really helps to preserve the building and car quality. So we come back over here on this side, and the adjustment on this as well is gravity. And basically, you want the top brush. This is a 60-inch cut, so you're going to have right about 30 inches of brush on the car, and you want that brush to ride about 12 inches, the center of it, right about 12 inches off the car. And you've got the weights up on the top. So it's kind of a 2-man job. We want to put a little bit less weight on it. You move them forward, and that will give you more weighted brush. You want it lighter, you move them out down. We've got these adjusted pretty much to a T, and there's not a lot of room to go backwards. But what happens is, as you start using the brush, you start losing brush material, and believe it or not, it helps if you do this. Changes the balance, the brush might get too light, so you might have to make it a little heavier. Yes. And always make sure, one of the things I forgot to mention earlier, these discs are really important. It just keeps stuff from getting entangled. And not only do you have on there, but you also have on the bottoms of the wrap brushes. So you want to make sure that the plates are always on there and intact, because it'll keep things from tangling. And again, left center electric guys, this center electric guy controls not just the final starch, but it also starts up the blower. So once you clear this center electric guys, you've got this thing set on 10 seconds. So that even if you're going slow, it'll spray out the back of the cars. Now, on the final rinse arches, these are 2 gallon a minute nozzles, so they're 50-20 the way that they fan out. But one of the things is that this whole thing is fresh water. We might even be able to go ahead and put some check valves over there on that side too. Not customary on the machines, but on the final rinse arches, so when the car pulls up, it makes the water instantaneous. Now, if you see any of these that are dripping down, it's because the check valve has probably got some debris in it. And basically, what you do is if you see one that's leaking out, and usually the ones that leak out at the bottom are the worst, because those, empty out the whole rinse arch, and you'll see how it goes. But basically it has a little nipple on it, and the nipple goes inside of there, and you'll see debris in there when you have the issue. He's cleaning out the other one there on the other side. So, and then you screw it back on, and you're all set. Now, if the nozzle's ever clogged, And guys, we're using chemical here, we're using that wax. So, you know, it's a possibility that, you know, that stuff could cause them to clog. So you could pull them out, blow them out, or use a paper clip or whatever it is. And that goes for the ones on the machines as well too. And that's pretty much it. We've also got the solenoid that controls the water going to this particular, it opens and closes the water delivery to this particular rinse arch. And then the chemical pump over here on this end. And again, this is another one that you only want to adjust when it's running. It'll tell you right there that not adjust unless it's running. So, you know, it might be a good idea to try to find another box of these so that the car preps can't, you know, mess with the chemical. And again, this one is 7.7. Yesterday I was noticing, I thought it was a little heavy on the cars for my preference. We're not really going to be able to gauge it very well today. But I would slowly adjust it down to, say, 5.5-ish. And look, and what you'll be able to see is that the water beads and the blower is able to blow the water off the cars. And I'm really, you know, I'm sad that we've got this weather today because Martin worked really hard yesterday. We were playing with the blowers and he moved them over so that we were getting a little bit of a skunk strip on one side of the cars. You know, so we're not going to be able to see the performance of that, but I'm certain with what the adjustments Martin has done, that is going to definitely work a lot better. One other important thing, if electric eyes ever go out, emitters or receivers, Martin, which one is the critical one that if you hook it up backwards burns out, the emitter or the receiver? The receiver. So it's really important if you ever have to replace one of those. So if somebody crashes into the receiver and you're putting the wires in, the wires on that one must be right, because if you get them backwards, it just burns out the eye immediately. The emitter's not as critical, but the receiver is the one that's really critical. You know how many new installs we come out on that we have to set of electric eyes on, so I just don't want you guys to go through those kind of pains if you have someone, you know, damage one of your eyes. And again, all the controls are all ran up through this cable tray, all the way to the front, to the back. So I pointed out the emergency stop at the front of the wash, and you've also got an emergency stop at the rear of the wash. And these electric eyes activate the blower. So the blower system will come on, and it's got what you call a look ahead. So basically, you're wasting a bunch of energy when you start to stop the blower every time. So if they're getting in a busy time where everybody's getting a bunch of cars ready, keep the blower running for 4 or 5 minutes, and if one shows up at 4 minutes and 50 seconds and hits the first set of electric eyes, it leaves the blower on, so you don't get that start-stop, you know, power consumption, and reduces wear and tear on the blowers as well too. Over here we have the control panel for the blower system. Same thing over here. It's a little bit drier of a climate, but it's still important to yeah, this one's buried. There it is. Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about earlier how we used to control the timers. And basically, these timers are all preset. What these timers do here is that because it's such a large current draw to start for all 5 motors at the same time, it's the stagger start.
Oh, okay.
So 2 of them, TD1 and TD2, I believe, are the stagger starts. And then TD3 is the run time of it. And the look-ahead time is adjustable in... Where is the look-ahead time adjustable now, Martin, on this one? Is it in this? The TD3 is?
TD1 is the off delay.
TD1's the off delay? And then 2 and 3 are the stagger start?
The second and third is activate simple.
Okay. Okay, and how do we adjust so that just is the off delay for the look ahead? We just set it to like
Whatever.
4 minutes, 5 minutes. Well, it should have the times over here.
So the off delay, setting 15 seconds. Okay, I guess they want to start at each and every time. One of the things that we've got going on now that is different is that our impellers are aluminum. So the amount of weight that those things are pushing nowadays in comparison to the old steel, you know, so they've got it set at 15 seconds. Usually we set a little bit longer. I will have to consult with my team back at the shop to see why they have it at 15 seconds. Usually they have it at a couple of minutes. So I'll find out if that's might be one of the reasons why. So here there's no soft start, there's no VFDs, it's just a stagger start. And again, you've got an individual motor starter. It's not like the car wash. Each one of these has its own individual motor starters. And one of the things I want to point out, earlier I was talking about loose lugs. And loose lugs will also make contactors, you know, kind of skip and not make full contact and you get arcing. So this is nice and dry and clean down here. If you start seeing any type of carbon underneath one of these things, that's kind of a red flag. And, you know, again, making sure the lugs are tight. They've got wire nuts on those up there, so those should be spot on. But if you get any motors overloading or tripping, these are the motor overloads. Each one has its own individual, and each one of these is 10 horsepower. And again, you've got the 24 volt transformer that sends the signals out to the pumping systems, and that sends out the signals to it receives the signals and sends signals to the activation and the chemical pump and all that good stuff out there. So that's basically it on this. And again, I know this is in a little bit drier of an environment, so let's make sure that we always button up everything. Like you should. And you have the handoff auto. If you're ever in here and you're working and you don't want to be annoyed by the sound of the blower, just come up here and turn it off, and it'll, you know, shut it off. If you don't reset the thing on and you put it on and the look ahead's still on and you put it back on auto, it'll still come back on.
This button is labeled, by the way, the reset.
It just lets you know.
Oh, it just an indicator.
It's an indicator.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So again, I pointed out how the impellers are made out of aluminum now. Okay. So we shouldn't have to look out for too much corrosion on those. These are sealed motors, so there's no lubrication on them. Martine's already pulled out all vent holes for the ventilation on them, and they're all set up. You just want to make sure that you look at them and make sure that they're all running.
What's the chain between the motor and the mounting plate?
Safety.
That's a safety drop.
Yep.
So the motor doesn't fall on the vehicle?
You know, we use that a lot for the installation too, right?
Keep the motor.
Yeah, if it vibrates loose or whatever, it's a secondary catch, so it doesn't kill somebody.
Good question.
Fall through the windshield. Kind of heavy though.
Yeah, no, they're a lot lighter than they used to be, okay? These things used to, with the aluminum now,
Right.
you know, if you put the two side by side, the full load amps and start, it doesn't even max out the motor anymore, which is really nice. Yeah. So you'll notice that the motors inside have the cages just to prevent anything from imploding from really coming out of the velocity. You want to make sure those are in good shape. You want to make sure that the inlets are not covered with trash. You know how many times I'll come out to a location and there's a bird or a plastic bag. I mean,
The t-shirt bags are bad.
you name it. I mean, I've seen it. So you just want to make sure that everything is clear on. Not too much to do on that end. Also, they're totally enclosed fan-cooled motors. You want to make sure the openings on the rear of those are also open and free of any debris or anything from keeping circulation. So we're pretty much done here with the bay. I just want to go show you guys the pumping system, which is providing water to the brush package, and we're all done with maintenance and troubleshooting.
No, what about, how about the pump? Do we
Yes, that's what I just said. Sorry.
Unless there's any questions.
No, I think that
Yeah, I learned a little something. stations, pumping rooms that we've got here. Basically, we just have one 750-gallon holding tank that has a freshwater makeup on. And inside there's an electronic flow, which turns on slowly, which is coming on this end right over here, which fills this tank up. And basically, so we want to make sure that's we're operating properly every now and then. You want to get up there on a ladder and make sure that the flows are running properly. So on this side of this tank, you'll have two flows. You'll have a low flow, and the low flow is basically to protect the pump from running dry and just filling itself. And then you have a high level flow, which makes sure that the tank stays full. As soon as the water level comes down, it has a flow that turns on the water. Inside of there, there's timers with oscillates, so if the thing is oscillating, it just doesn't, slap the solenoid on and off. And of course, the size of the restraints. So whenever you're servicing the pump, and we get something kind of above and beyond over here. So we got a 2-inch ball valve, but we also got a 2-inch inline filter. And normally that's what we do for reclaim because that takes the heavy contaminants out of the water. So what I would do is after about a month of service, open that up and see if there's any debris in there, clean it out, put it back in. Remember, that's plastic against that iron, so basically you want to put a little bit of poly lube on it and thread it backwards and thread it forward and make sure that that seal on the top has got some lubrication on it as well too.
Is that hand tightened?
Yes. Yes, it is hand tight, and you've got just enough room there. Once you drop it down, the screen filter is a mesh that goes inside of the unit. So you drop it down and slide it over and pull it out, and then the mesh is replaceable. I would normally recommend having a replacement mesh, but with fresh water here, it's not even going to be necessary. So basically, this is 10 horsepower pumping system. We put this little cover right here over. It's like an omega coupling, just like we have on the top brush system. So if this pump starts making any noise that's out of the ordinary, it should sound nice and quiet like that. So if you start getting any weird noises on the pump or screaming, want to look at that. Yeah. Well, that's another thing too. So these pumps have a couple of things, and you're not going to have to do them very often. So you got a high water air bleed, and you got a low bleed, and you've also got this little deal over here, which you spray. Martin, what, like 30 weight?
30 weight on.
Yeah. So on this pump, like once a week.
Just lubricate all your pump.
Yeah. Put about once a week or so.
Yeah, once in a week.
Once a week.
Yeah.
So just have an oil can here and squirt into this thing, and this pump should give you plenty of life. A lot of people will forget that. That's a real important, thing to just a couple squirts in there. So again, this is going to be important when you change that, because we're going to get some air, of course, in the system once you open and close the ball valve. And basically, you just open this up, and boom, it'll allow all the air to come out of the system. So this is already purged. It's actually should be finger tight, but it's not. Pretty tight, this one is. And there you see, you got a little bit of the debris. We might want to clean out that 2-inch inline filter. It's tight. It's tight. I can't get it. There you go. You had your Wheaties this morning.
It's hand tight for him.
Okay, he used 2 hands. So those are the bleeds. And again, you've got a pressure, you've also got low pressure sensor here. So if it senses a low flow or no pressure, this will also turn off the pump, and then you'll get the low pressure warning in a reset for it. That way, as soon as you bleed out the pump and take care of any of the issues that are causing the low pressure condition. Okay, and again, this has its own disconnect and the lockout tags.
Oh, one of them fell off. It's right back in the pocket. Yeah, I put them back later. Yeah. Yeah, just only need to.
Yeah, it just slides in there.
Just
doesn't
like.
it? Yeah, it doesn't look like anything's broken.
Yeah.
Oh, you put it on the inside?
No, from the back side.
On the back side?
No.
Okay, I see exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little bit. Okay. I'll let you do that later.
Yeah.
So how this works is you've got the VFD that controls this, and basically what it does is that the VFD, when both the flutter arch and the car wash are on, it allows this pump to pump out full capacity so you get as much volume and pressure as you possibly can at that flood arch. As soon as that flood arch times out, this VFD will ramp this down to like a third of the capacity, which will provide the pressure that you need. These are the little timers that I told you about, where the floats that, once it stays, in the off position or the on position for a certain amount of time without fluctuating, it will cause them to turn on and off. So they're pretty basic stuff. The VFDs are already pre-programmed. If we're maybe getting too much water out of the front at one period of time or anything else, and we want to slow down the amount of water volume, this VFD could be adjustable and we can be obstructed by that. I don't think we're going to have that problem here. We've got a good pitch on the color, sure, we're running that. I think the way that it's set from the factory is the same. And again, you got a 24-volt transformer here. This basically just has a couple of wires coming from the car wash. Actually, like full wires coming from the car wash. One the flutter arch is on, the other one that's on with both the flutter arch and car wash are on. So that's basically it on here. When you use a VFD, you have to use some type of deal that cleans the mixture. You get clean electricity or something. I'm just technical enough to be dangerous. But yeah, that's like a special filter which allows this to make sure that it's getting equal current so that it doesn't dull its defaults. I'm not sure the terminology, but I know the purpose of it because we put in a few without that particular deal in there. And when you have current that you get crazy legs or something like that, when one leg comes in at a different power and you get surges, that's what the purpose of that is.
Gotcha. I didn't notice it.
Yeah, because none of the other ones had VFDs. This is the only one with the VFD. So. I'm going to have to learn. I'll call out what I call Audi, find out exactly what that's called.
Filter, it just
Evens out the three. You used to put them on like even car or home stereos and that kind of stuff, so that it's nice, smooth power.
Yep. When you had the first plasma TVs.
Yeah.
So that's basically it on this one, and that's the training on the car wash. This one's pretty basic.
I dig it. That's a check valve.
It certainly is. And basically just, it keeps make sure that the line stays, complete, even though, because these lines are almost higher than the tank, so we just wanted to make sure. And again, if you're doing servicing and you need to fix a leak in the pipes, you got a ball valve here, and you got one out the car wash bay as well too. So if you're having some issues with your here, you need to shut it off, you got emergency shut off over here. And again, if we have a problem with that solenoid, that thing's running overhead, also got the ball valve built in and open the ice screener over there. You can see that ice screener going out. And my experience with ice screeners is that when you start them off new construction, you get a bunch of debris in there, so the first couple of months, let's have a look at them, make sure that the first couple of weeks they should be fine. And then look at it, as maybe see that we're getting some efficiencies in here, and on the nice to have the ice screener around because
usage training, who's going to be involved with the usage training?